Wall Street, the world's financial center, has long meant more than just a street to the United States. The U.S.'s financial prosperity is largely attributed to the stability and growth of the Wall Street capital market. Given this, could a terrorist event, a reenactment of 9/11, trigger a global financial crisis? Jack was pursuing his PhD in the UK. Suddenly, on an ordinary day, he noticed all the students looked strained, their attention fixed on the TV screen. He followed the crowd and was horrified to see news of the Twin Towers being attacked and exploding. Listening to his friends' panicked discussions and witnessing the tragedy unfold, Jack silently resolved to return home and join the military to protect the U.S. Thus, he gave up a future many dreamed of, took up arms, and went to Afghanistan. Thanks to his excellent academic record and courageous, decisive fighting spirit, Jack was quickly promoted to lieutenant on the Afghan battlefield. However, during an air support mission, an enemy rocket hit his helicopter. Although the pilot tried his best to maintain balance, he couldn't prevent the aircraft's inevitable crash. The attack didn't kill Jack instantly, but it crushed his spinal cord and caused severe damage to his nervous system. He might never walk again without assistance for the rest of his life. Jack survived, but could only use crutches to painfully perform physical therapy exercises. Without a miracle, his life would likely stop here. Jack's rehabilitation specialist was also very strict, not only devising heavy exercises, but also refusing to help him when he fell. Kathy was not a professional therapist, but a medical student who needed extra credits. She came here to earn them. At the same time, a mysterious man observing Jack from the second floor suddenly turned to ask the manager next to him. Upon learning Jack had been undergoing treatment for 8 months, the man took a special interest. Jack struggled to stand up with his crutches ready to take the painkiller Kathy offered, but then heard her propose a small request: wait 2 minutes and try to suppress the pain. Jack tried his hardest to hold back, and in doing so, broke free from drug dependence. Witnessing this, Harper finally made his decision. He put on his military uniform and walked up to Jack. After introducing himself, he began asking about Jack's prior studies and the papers he had written. Jack found the man very familiar because he had previously spotted Harper lurking on the second floor of the rehabilitation center. After simply answering his questions, Jack curiously asked how he knew about the papers he had written. Harper quietly said it was because he was from the CIA. Jack clearly didn't believe him, thinking it was just a joke. Although Kathy's training sessions were harsh, the results were genuinely evident. During this time, Jack could walk normally and even jog lightly. However, Kathy had to return to school to continue her studies. Jack had fallen deeply in love with the girl who helped him escape this abyss. They promised that once he fully recovered, she would accept his invitation for a date. Seeing a reborn Jack, Harper finally stepped forward to express his intentions. He hoped Jack would join the CIA, return to school to finish his degree, and then go to Wall Street to investigate which companies were transferring funds to terrorists. And all of this was so the U.S. would no longer have to endure terrorist attacks. Jack, who was initially hesitant, decisively chose to join after hearing this. 10 years later, Jack is now a core executive at a multinational corporation. During this entire time, he has continued to assist the CIA in investigating foreign capital sources. Recently, some unusual moves in the global economy have made him sense danger. Due to international energy instability, the relationship between the U.S. and Russia has progressively worsened. Representatives from both countries have engaged in fierce confrontation at the UN, and an economic war seems to be quietly brewing. He proactively contacted his CIA colleague, presenting his concerns to headquarters. The two met in a movie theater, utilizing the dim light there. Jack requested that headquarters quickly arrange a source in the Russian economic sector. Furthermore, the Russian company cooperating with this multinational corporation had many hidden accounts in the U.S., all vital intelligence the CIA needed. After handing the information to his colleague, Jack left the theater. Although 10 years had passed, Jack and Kathy were still not married. The two maintained their boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. The next day, Kathy came to Jack's place. She intended to surprise her boyfriend, but accidentally found this movie ticket stub. This began to make Kathy feel uneasy, especially when Jack in the evening also seemed distracted, constantly monitoring the news on TV. The U.S. budget deficit was growing, its debt swelling, compounded by the political instability caused by international energy. The U.S. dollar should have been losing value, but it was slowly increasing instead. This didn't align with economic principles nor current political needs. Jack sensed that someone was deliberately pushing this. However, Kathy, seeing his indifferent expression, thought he had found someone new. Right then, Chevron in Russia received a meeting request. He waited patiently and met Sorokin, a high-ranking Russian official. During their conversation, Chevron realized that now was the best time to launch the Dirge operation. With the high-ranking official's approval, this earth-shattering plan finally began to operate. Jack also received his mission from the CIA go to Russia to investigate the multinational corporation's conspiracy. He went to the company, and using the pretext of inspecting the Russian hidden accounts, he was dispatched to Russia as an inspection supervisor to review the accounts. Upon returning home, Jack informed Kathy of his business trip, but was questioned by her as to why he wasn't taking her along. His unusual actions finally became unbearable for Kathy. The two had a huge argument over this. After a moment of hesitation, Jack decided that after the trip they would travel to Paris together. Anatoly had been waiting for a long time and finally picked up Jack. But upon seeing the tall, muscular bodyguard in front of him, Jack suddenly had a bad feeling. Anatoly expertly taking away his pistol made him even more uneasy. After checking into the spacious and luxurious hotel room, he walked to the window to admire the view, only to see Anatoly's reflection in the glass aiming a gun at him. Jack quickly ducked. Without time to question, he flipped the wooden table and rushed into the bedroom. Anatoly, right behind him, saw Jack had nowhere to escape. Just then, his pistol ran out of bullets. Jack took the opportunity to hide in the bathroom, preparing to ambush his enemy. Anatoly replaced his magazine and pointed his gun, searching for Jack's silhouette. When he saw the dark shower curtain ahead, he fired multiple shots into it, then violently pulled the curtain aside. Unexpectedly, Jack wasn't hiding in the bathtub, but was concealed in the ventilation system. Taking advantage of Anatoly's surprise, Jack leapt down from above. He wrestled the opponent's gun and squeezed the trigger, shattering a decorative object to break free from the hold. Using Anatoly's fall to his advantage, Jack crawled to grab the pistol, but the opponent grabbed his throat. He fired back the bullet, grazing Anatoly's head and flying into the ceiling. The startled opponent let go, and Jack prepared to shoot, but the gun was empty. He resolutely charged, tackling Anatoly and submerging his head into the bathtub. The water slowly rose. Anatoly couldn't resist due to his restricted posture. When the water went past his mouth and nose, the actual killing began. Jack held Anatoly's head down until the opponent completely lost consciousness. Only then did he step onto the balcony in shock, reporting everything that had just happened to headquarters. The liaison informed Jack of the evening meeting place and asked him to return to the hotel room. Jack cautiously entered the chaotic bathroom, looking at the corpse, until a coded signal rang. He then left the hotel and slowly walked towards the meeting point. On his way, Jack received a call from Kathy. Facing her earnest inquiries, Jack looked at the suspicious taxi in front of him and spoke incoherently. He comforted his girlfriend while avoiding the taxi's view and successfully reached the meeting location. Harper signaled Jack to sit down, and the conversation began. Jack found documents from the Russian business partner company refusing the corporation's access, and all the accounts listed in those documents were U.S. government bonds. Combined with the current international situation, Jack suspected someone was pushing the U.S. dollar exchange rate higher. If someone used a terrorist event at this moment to mass sell U.S. government bonds, they could crash the dollar and the American economy. At that point, lacking a real manufacturing sector as a pillar, the U.S. would face unprecedented inflation, spreading from the U.S. to the whole world, triggering the Second Great Economic Depression. Therefore, Jack wanted to check the computer information of Chevron, the head of the partner company, to confirm the specific date the opponent planned to execute the scheme. This put heavy pressure on Harper, who decided to mobilize more resources to solve the problem. He handed Jack a pistol and appointed him chief agent for this mission. Jack returned to his hotel room and discovered that the room, which had been extremely chaotic, had been entirely restored to normal. Even the wall had been patched in under 2 hours. He was once again astonished by the CIA's infiltration capabilities. Afterward, he got into bed and sent a text message to Kathy. Time passed quickly. The next day, Jack arrived at Chevron's company headquarters. Facing this uninvited guest, Chevron offered polite inquiries. Jack, under the title of inspection supervisor, requested an audit of the hidden accounts. But Chevron had anticipated this. He presented all the hidden account information, stating they had all been sold and that as the representative of the cooperating company, Jack could know how much money the company had been allocated. As he spoke, Raymond, the head of the entire building's security, actively appeared seemingly to prompt Jack to leave. Jack had no grounds for inspection, but he didn't give up. He extended an invitation for dinner, hoping to smooth relations between the two parties. Chevron agreed instantly, but requested Jack bring his wife. It was then Jack realized Kathy had flown from the US to Russia. Jack rushed back to the hotel. He looked at Kathy, who was waiting with a face full of doubt, and finally confessed his identity as a CIA operative. At that moment, Costa, the key figure in Operation Dirge, was in a church with his parents. When they learned that Operation Dirge would begin tomorrow, a sense of unease immediately appeared on their faces. After the church service, the three immediately destroyed all evidence. But Costa looked at his parents, then pulled out the dagger he had prepared. After dealing with these two burdens, he immediately went out towards the mission location. However, a suspicious figure waiting by the roadside drew Costa's attention. Under the pretext of asking for directions, and after getting close to the person, he immediately drew the dagger hidden in his sleeve and stabbed it forcefully into the person's throat. After ensuring the person was completely lifeless, Costa got into the car and confirmed the person's FBI identity. Meanwhile, Jack and Kathy were discussing the upcoming mission's progress with Harper. Harper could handle the security and access card issues, but Kathy had to distract Chevron for 10 minutes. However, Jack did not want his girlfriend to be put at risk. Harper then spoke plainly. Chevron's greatest weakness was other people's wives. If Kathy didn't participate, Jack wouldn't be able to meet with Chevron. Reluctantly, he agreed to let Kathy join the mission. On the way to the restaurant, Jack took out the carefully prepared ring and personally put it on Kathy's finger. Chevron, who had been waiting for a long time, finally saw the two enter the restaurant. He went up to greet them and escorted the guests to their table. Harper, who was observing Raymond, finally saw him leave. Receiving the signal, Jack immediately began to feign madness. He pretended to be drunk and started speaking nonsense incoherently. Kathy acted very angry and suggested Chevron escort her to the restroom. A prepared CIA agent casually bumped into him, successfully stealing his wallet. Jack took Chevron's access card. After the two returned, he intentionally said that Kathy was vain and about to leave him. This angered both of them, and they chased him out of the restaurant. Jack left feeling distraught. He immediately went to Chevron's company. Thanks to swiping the card and the support of a CIA agent, he successfully broke into the building. He took the elevator to the office familiar to him, and then found Chevron's computer in the secret room. Jack plugged in the USB and started copying. But this quickly caught the attention of Raymond, the security director. He ordered the entire building sealed off and told his secretary to contact Chevron. However, Chevron was enjoying an increasingly engaging conversation with Kathy and eventually hung up on the secretary's call. Just as the information copying was complete, Raymond and the security personnel returned to the building. The main elevator was unusable. Fortunately, Harper had planned ahead, decoding Chevron's private elevator and helping Jack leave the building through that route. The secretary realized something was wrong and went directly to Chevron, recounting everything that happened at the company. He immediately sensed the deception and looked at Kathy with hatred. Chevron took her back to the company building where they met Jack, who had been waiting for a long time. A large security detail tightly surrounded the two. However, after searching, they found no useful information on Jack. He had no choice but to have Raymond send people to follow them. Harper received the information and immediately assigned someone to decode it. Jack directly told Harper that based on the information he saw in Chevron's office, the enemy had prepared $2 trillion USD in US government bonds and would dump them all tomorrow. Only by stopping the enemy's terrorist attack could this economic war be averted. Just as they were talking, a group of heavily armed soldiers suddenly burst in. Everyone immediately engaged in a firefight. The leader, feeling they couldn't overcome Harper's firepower, kidnapped Kathy from Jack's car and fled. Seeing his fiancée taken, Jack jumped from the building, hijacked a car, and chased in Kathy's direction. Harper, seeing they were temporarily safe, returned to track Kathy's location to guide Jack. The enemy continuously circled Moscow, then voluntarily got out of the car for Chevron to approach Kathy. Jack suddenly received a call from him. Hearing Kathy's distraught cries, he was instantly consumed by rage. Seeing the target getting closer, Jack suddenly crashed into a truck that had abruptly appeared. Seeing Chevron nearby, he got out of the car, took a shortcut, and violently smashed Chevron's car window. CIA teammates immediately arrived and they quickly rescued Kathy. Then Jack drove away in a rush. Time was critical. The plane Harper had arranged finally got everyone airborne. Based on the information in the documents, the police raided Koss's house, but only found a pile of completely burned ashes. Jack reminded everyone that Koss was an agent personally selected by Chevron, so there must be some special requirement. Thinking of this, he immediately sent someone to investigate information about Chevron discovering he did indeed have a son who died at the age of 9, However, the CIA agent suddenly found a picture of Koss as a child who looked exactly like Chevron's son. After cross-referencing, it was confirmed they were the same person. Koss had by now arrived at his workplace. He stabbed the manager to death and used his documents to drive away from the company. Jack now found a clue. Chevron could not have faked the death certificate himself. After checking, they indeed found the information of the medical examiner. Jack discovered that this doctor was constantly receiving transfers from Chevron. Through a payphone near his home and checking the assets at the location, he called the CIA, found an abandoned warehouse. As expected, Koss was repainting a car inside, which was loaded with explosives. But by the time the police arrived, he had vanished. Jack tracked his location from a photo posted on a social media account that Koss followed and confirmed his final destination, Wall Street, New York. With time running out, Jack and Harper immediately boarded a helicopter and flew to Wall Street, beginning to assist in the evacuation of the crowd at the scene. Jack knew the police had found painting equipment in the abandoned warehouse, so he paid close attention to every passing police car. Sure enough, he found an unusually repainted vehicle. Without waiting, he immediately borrowed a motorcycle from a passing colleague and frantically chased the police car. He told Harper that everyone had been deceived. Koss's true target was not a building. Harper hung up the phone and immediately requested a street map. Meanwhile, Jack followed Koss's footsteps into the underground tunnel. Harper finally realized that if the explosion occurred in the tunnel, half of Wall Street would collapse due to the massive shockwave. He immediately ordered the police to expand the evacuation perimeter. Jack was in hot pursuit when Koss suddenly swerved, causing Jack to crash hard into the car. It took him a moment to get back on his feet. Koss looked at Jack lying on the ground, then sped off. He drove into the city's sewer system, and just as he opened the detonating device in the car trunk, Jack caught up and forcefully pushed him out. In the rushing water, the two began a fierce battle on the surface. Jack glanced at the trunk full of explosives, his heart sinking. Koss took the opportunity to shove him into the current and attempted a barrage of punches. Jack capitalized on Koss's off-balance strike, sending him flying into the strong current. Realizing time was running out, Jack decisively tied up Koss, then drove the car away quickly. As a large police force arrived at the tunnel to apprehend the terrorist, Jack drove the bomb-laden truck out. He begged Harper to clear a large path for him, but due to the extreme time constraints, Harper was completely unable to help. Jack could only weave left and right on his own, escaping the bustling Wall Street area. He locked the speed, then rolled out of the truck bed. The moment the truck plunged into the water, a massive column of water immediately erupted with a deafening explosion. As everything settled, Chevron heard the news and his spirits sank into despair. He went to his old meeting spot with Sorokin and was shot dead by him. As for Jack and Harper, they were personally commended by the president for saving America's Wall Street. Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit is an American film released in 2014. If rated on a 5-star scale, I would give the main character 4 stars. Audiences expecting this film to be a proper sequel to the Jack Ryan series will likely be disappointed, as apart from reusing the name and identity, the movie lacks any connection to previous installments. In contrast, the Harrison Ford version of Jack Ryan felt more gentle and refined. Regarding the plot, the closely linked sequences always carry a vague sense of urgency throughout. The film is very streamlined with hardly any superfluous details. Of course, to build the narrative of American innocence, the plot severely downplays the nation's power. If Russia were truly to simultaneously dump $2 trillion of U.S. government bonds, the U.S. would absolutely not sit idly by and would not be as helpless as portrayed in the film. Based on this point, the plot only receives 3 stars. The value of a film lies in its reputation, and the value of a film review lies in the feeling it conveys. Today's story ends here. Thank you all for watching the film. Let me know what you thought of this movie in the comments below.